Hello, everyone. I'm Hunter Williams, and welcome to this week's Midweek Update, brought to you by newstalkstl and Jeffco Patriot Radio. Check us out on all of our platforms that you can stream podcast. I'm a senior at Northwest High School. I'm highly involved in our community. I'm joined today by Nora Ross, who's running for Northwest R1 School Board. Thank you for joining us, Nora.
Thank you, Hunter.
I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to get right into it. Why are you running for school board, and what personal experiences prepared you for this role?
I'm running for school board because I want to provide leadership that helps our school district. For 19 years, I was a public school teacher, and I feel that that experience it will help me to help students, teachers, parents, and administrators and as a member of the school board. And I also feel that I have a lot of ideas that will help the school board, that will help our teachers, our administrators, our parents, and our students.
That's amazing. So like you said, I think it's fantastic that you have been a teacher, right? So you've been through it. Not only have you been a parent, you've been a teacher, you've also been a student, right? And
Mhm.
so you've been through it and you know how, the everyday life goes as a teacher. And I think that's one thing that's important because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not just about making decisions, right? It's about making decisions that you are prepared about. You're prepared to make the decisions. And someone who has been through that, that's very crucial for this role. So we do appreciate that. What do you believe is the most important issue facing our school district right now?
I believe that the most important issue facing Northwest School District is student retention or enrollment. And because we are coming into a situation where parents are going to have school choice. And so we have to make our school marketable. We have to make it so that parents want to send their children to Northwest School District.
That's great. And so you said making our school marketable. But what are some ideas that you may have that could help, market our school and things like that?
Well, I think that we can research our demographics and find out who lives in our district, and we can market that to, maybe we need to market trades, or maybe we need to market certain professions. But to have the students be able to come into this school to say, I'm going to Northwest High School so that I can become whatever it is. And, part of marketing is involving our students to ask them. We have students that are focusing on business while they're in school. And so let them work and do some marketing for us and help us with that.
I think that's fantastic. Me personally, I am at a business class at Northwest right now, and I think that's something that we could, do for our school. I mean, it's in its assignment. It's another assignment, right? And if we're doing things to better our school to get our enrollment up, I think that's a very great idea. All right, what steps would you support to improve academic achievement and prepare students for careers, colleges, or even trades?
I would continue with reading, writing, and arithmetic. That will help our students. I think reading comprehension is very important. I think that we should make sure that our STEM programs are up to date and working and doing what they should be doing to help our students as they graduate. I do believe that every student um, can have a plan for graduation, that they can have a plan to go to college or go to a trade school or whatever, whatever they feel led to do. Maybe, some people may just graduate and may graduate and go to uh to a job, and
Hmm.
that's great.
Yeah.
Whatever, but they need to have the basis. They need to have those basics that will show that they are educated, and I think that's important.
And I think one thing that's important too, even for kids going into college, we have to be able to know how to communicate in a world outside of school. So if a kid's going into a trade, they need to know how to be able to communicate confidently to, when they go in and apply for their apprenticeship or something like that. When these kids are going to colleges and are applying for colleges. They need to know how to communicate and things like that. When they go up to college and they're looking for a job to pay for things, they have to know how to be able to communicate. And like you said, that's one thing, it's something that we have to continue to do and press upon them is being able to set yourself up for success after high school. So I think that's great. All right, moving on to our next question. What are your thoughts on LGBTQ in our curriculums?
Well, I do believe that I have some strong beliefs about LGBTQ. I believe that God created us in his image and that he created us male and female. But I also believe that we need to show respect and concern and help for students. And so, as far as education in our system is, sexuality is part of biology. And so that is a part of our biology classes. But those that teaching needs to be an overview and not a how to. And so I um I think that we need to limit the age, have an age limit where we teach this and that it is taught non-prejudiced and unbiased.
Yes.
And so just the facts.
And,
Mhm.
and I totally agree with that. The facts, like you said, the biology of it, the study of life, providing the facts for the students, but non-biasedly. I
Mhm.
think that's great. So, kind of going off of that, what are your thoughts on religion in our school?
Well, religion is a part of history and literature. As an English teacher, a high school English teacher, I taught a lot of religion because a lot of our early American and especially British lit, had a lot of religion in it. When you think about the Canterbury Tales, that's very that tells you a lot about Catholicism,
Hmm.
a lot of the early American literature. And so history and English include a lot of religion. And I think that that's important. I do believe that there are Old Testament classes that are being taught in schools today. It is, and I think that's great because there's a lot of history in the Old Testament and there's a lot of history in the New Testament. And so I believe that it should be taught. And the other religions, I learned about Islam in high school, and I think that, we there should be facts, just the facts once
Yes.
again.
I do strongly agree with that. Like you said, the Canterbury Tales. I actually just took a British literature class in high school,
Yes.
and I learned a lot about it. I think it's important to have non-biased facts, and that's what students need. We don't need to crowd our students with things that are not facts. I think that's amazing. So, teacher retention is a challenge, and I'm sure you know this, being a teacher and things like
Mhm.
that. It's a challenge in many districts. So, what would you do to support and keep good teachers in our district?
I think that it is important. I know that as a teacher, I wanted 3 things. Well, probably more than that, but
Yeah,
there were 3 things that I really, really, wanted as a teacher. I wanted time and support and of course income,
of
you know?
course, yeah.
And so, the time to for us to give our teachers, um, appropriate a good amount of planning time, because that is important, and my last year of teaching was, 2021 is when I retired, and, that was, the year after COVID, and that was such a struggle because we were trying to teach students at home, because they were doing online teaching, online learning, and we were also trying to teach students in the classroom. We were writing lesson plans, we were, and it was a busy, busy time, and that was I realized then how important planning time was for teachers. And then support. We need to support our teachers. We need to, yes, sometimes they will make mistakes and we need to work with that, but we need for them to know that that their classroom is their classroom, and so we need to support them with students. We need to support them with the administration also, and I think that and income, I'm not familiar with the pay scale of the Northwest School District and how it matches the districts around us, but that's part of the budget. That's part of working on the budget and making it so that we are competitive. We talked about marketing the school for students. We need to market our school for the teachers also and make it a competitive place for them to be.
I think that's huge. I think the support aspect of that is huge, especially you being a teacher. I think that you being a teacher and you knowing those things that you wanted or you didn't have enough of, that you can bring that to a board and you can make proper decisions on what you can do to support the staff better and support them financially and stuff like that. So I think that's fantastic. So how should the district balance spending while still investing in the student's success?
So, I was an English teacher and numbers were my friend, but
Yeah,
not, they were
yeah,
acquaintances
they were
for
they
me.
weren't your main
Yes,
truth.
yeah, they weren't. So, I have some notes here that I want to look at as I tell you this.
Yeah,
So, I do believe that it starts with responsible budgeting, and the district has to live within its means, but prioritize the classroom and classroom instruction and ensure that the spending aligns with student outcomes.
being able to have, the basics and the basics of it is students are coming to school to learn, and that's
Mhm,
the basics of that, so yeah.
mhm. And then there needs to be strong financial oversight to for the with a review of financial reports and audits and board members who
Yeah,
ask questions. We need to ask questions about why are we spending that on this and not on this, or why are we, how can we better spend that, and then to have planning for our school district. We talked about a 5-year and a 10-year plan, and so that our school is fiscally sound for the future. Efficiency matters, that we reduce waste and wastefulness, and that we have programs that are effective, and that we evaluate those programs for effectiveness.
sure, sure.
And sometimes we might have to do the hard question and answer that hard
Yeah,
question that says, "Should we keep this program?"
mm,
And then trust and transparency with the community are key, and I think as long as we're having audits and we're d you know, all of that is public, then I think that we have that.
yeah, I think that's great. I think one of the things you said is having that timeline of the 5 to 10 years. I think it's very important for schools to look towards the future, not just what's going on right now, but what's going on in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's very important. So I really like that point you made. Also, having that strong connection with the community and things like that. So you're remaining fiscally responsible. So I think that's an amazing point to make. So how will you ensure that parents and community members and or business owners, because business owners in our community give so much back to our schools. So how will you make sure all of them still have their voice to give their opinions to the school and that they are heard and things are done about that?
I will listen if they have a concern or they come to me as a business owner. I will listen, and school boards are different. I'll have to see how to introduce that to the school board, but at every opportunity I will share what the community has shared with me.
Yeah, great. I think that's one of the things right now is school board members have to make the decision. That's what they're called to do, right? They're called to make the decision. But sometimes they don't know what they're deciding on. And when you have business owners, when you're able to talk to the business owners, to the community, to the parents, I think that's huge that they're able to voice their opinion and you guys are able to listen and base your decisions off of that because that's what you guys are called to do. So kind of what you talked about at the beginning is your important issue facing Northwest right now is the student enrollment. What do you think needs to be done to increase the number of students in our school districts?
Well, I think that it's something that we have to look with our county and talk to them about too, because we depend on our county to approve of
Economic development,
subdivisions
yeah,
and economic development in our area. And so I think that our county government is very important to our school district growth, and that we need to think about that this year. That this is an important time for us to consider that. Um, and also that, um, go back to the marketing, to say what kind of school district are we? What are our what are our great, attributes that we want to share? And to start sharing those things and to start marketing. Let's have our kids do a commercial. Let's
sure.
have them make a commercial for it.
Yeah, you
Mm,
know, I'm involved in a news group at the high school. I love making commercials for them. So, I mean, I'm sure we have the students to do it. All we got to do is give it to them. And Northwest does a great job at giving things or, you know, letting our students have their voice and produce their leadership skills and things like that. If you give it to us, we're going to take it and we're going to run with it, you know? And that's one thing I know the high school especially does great at, you know, allowing students' voices to be heard. And I think that also touches on the topic of allowing the community members' voices to be heard as well. So,
yes.
all right. So we kind of talked about, you know, steps to improve academic achievement for kids going into college and stuff like that. So, or trade. So, what are your thoughts on students going into college versus students going not to college?
Well, I think that that is a personal choice, that college is great, and if you have a profession where you need to go to college, that's a great thing for you to do, but there are also trade schools. I know a recent graduate of Northwest High School who is now licensed plumber,
Wow.
and that is pretty
Hmm.
exciting. She's a girl.
Yeah. Wow. You
Yeah,
don't see that much, and
that's right.
that's exciting.
It's
That's a big
exciting.
achievement.
I'm
And being
very
able to
proud of
support
her.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, for instance, I have a brother who, you know, he went to a trade school, and
Mhm.
next year he's gonna have a job making, you know, making money already, and he didn't have to go to college. So being able to support going to college, but also being able to support people who don't wanna go to college and wanna go to into trades, and, like myself, I don't wanna really go to college and be in debt per se. You know, I want to be able to set myself up best for my future and take a route that not necessarily I need college for. So I think that's huge.
Well, as far as going into debt for college, do we still have the A plus program?
We do, and
Yes,
that's what I'm gonna end up doing. I'm gonna go to Jefferson College, and I'm using the A plus program.
great.
A plus program is amazing for community colleges and trade school. That's what my brother did. That's what I did. In fact, that's what both of my parents did as well. So, you know, it's a thing that's been around for a while, and it's you know it's a great opportunity for students. So.
Mhm.
All right. So on to the next question. So as a board, so if you were elected to the board, what do you think you can do to make the best possible decisions for students?
Well, I think I can rely on my experience some, but also to check with the community and with students and to work with them and to communicate. I think the communication is very important.
I agree with that. Something that, you know, I've seen is a school district that has, you know, two students who were chosen to actively participate in board meetings. I thought this was really cool, participating in board meetings and giving what they think and stuff like that, how they think it might affect the student body and the school as a whole. Being able to get more student input. The high schools, the elementary schools, they do great, fantastic on seeing and getting the information that what their students want. But when the board's making decisions, like I said before, sometimes it's hard for a board member to make a decision if they don't know what they're making a decision on sometimes. And
Mhm.
so if they're getting input from students and things like that, that's also building relationships with students, you know? That
Yes.
just makes you, you know, a better board member there is building relationships with students and things like that. So I think that's one thing that could possibly be looked into. I think that the students' input is definitely important to success for school districts.
I think that is exciting to think about that students would be involved. I think it'd be great. Hunter, I'm amazed with you. A senior in high school.
Yeah.
You are doing so well.
I, I do appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Yeah, I think it's very important to involve the students. And like for me personally, they do it at the high school. Like I'm in many leadership opportunities at the high school. And our key thing is being able for students to use their voice and things like that and give their opinions. And I think that's one thing that's very important. And it's helped me out a lot too. All right. You ready for the last question?
I am.
It's a hot one. All
Okay.
right. Why should voters vote for Nora Ross?
They should vote for me because I have been a member of this community for 24 years. That my husband and I have been pastors, recently retired, which was exciting, but we haven't really retired, you know. They should vote for me because we know this community and we have served and worked in this community for 24 years. I have 19 years of teaching experience. Even a few years before that, I was in the 90s. I was a substitute in the Northwest School
Yeah,
District. But I feel that I can help with student success. I can help with teacher retention. I can help the school board with a lot of those education issues that they need to address. I do believe that I've been a parent, a teacher, a student, and I only haven't been an administrator, but that's okay. And I think that in those three experiences, I think I can help a lot of people and I can help our school board at Northwest.
that's amazing. So I appreciate your time here today. How can voters contact you? Do you have an email or do you have a Facebook or anything like that?
I do have a Facebook
Okay.
account. It's Nora Wright Ross, and you can contact me there.
But
Mm,
all right, sounds good. I appreciate your time here on the midweek update, and I hope the campaign goes well for you and
mhm.
the voter turnout on April 7th is good.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.